As the Prime Minister travels to Brussels for tonight's EU summit, a group of leading Leave campaigners have said that she should formally declare that we are assuming being under WTO rules as of the end of March 2019. This would provide businesses with absolute certainty, say the signatories, who include the former Chancellor, Lord Lawson, and former Cabinet Ministers, including the Conservative MP Owen Paterson. He's in our Westminster studio now. Good morning.
Hello, Michelle. Good morning.
Is this what you are suggesting the Prime Minister says tonight when she meets EU leaders?
Yes, it absolutely is. We've said that she's made the most generous offer at Florence on the future relationship, and they have simply not taken up her generosity to discuss the future trading relationship with the EU, and that is providing very serious uncertainty to business. If we go on like this, and we've already seen the leaked conclusions of this summit already, which were toughened up by Frau Merkel and the President of France, they're not going to be talking about trade at all today. That puts the whole thing off to December, and then we have Christmas, then we have the New Year. It is inevitable at the moment. There's an ineluctable certainty that we're going to end up with WTO at the end of this anyway. So what we're saying is we much better state that now, give business and all our administrative organisations certainty so they can begin to prepare.
So abandon the future trade talks entirely?
No. We haven't started that.
Abandon the idea of it.
Hang on. We are inevitably going this direction anyway because they are flatly refusing to talk about trade. So what we're saying is we should say we assume we're going to end up here the way we're going at the moment. Should they come back to us in December or January and start talking about a trade relationship, that will be great. It's perfectly obvious. It's in all our interests, massively in theirs, as they have a huge surplus with us of 71.8 billion last year. It went up by 9 billion sterling. What we want is reciprocal free trade based on recognition of conformity of standards and regulations with zero tariffs. We all know that is where we'd ideally like to be. But we're not going to get there unless they start talking about it.
So that is your preference.
Absolutely,
but you think it is an unlikely result.
At the moment it is, because they're flatly refusing to talk about it. Okay, there's this complete obsession with money.
And the alternative no deal is, in your view, therefore, an acceptable scenario?
Well, it's an inevitable deal at the moment. We are ineluctably moving in this direction because they will not talk about it.
Is it an acceptable scenario? And I ask that because there are some pretty severe economic consequences that many people say will flow from that, and I'm wondering if you think those are acceptable.
Well, I would question that. We look at countries like the United States and India. They've accelerated their sales into the single market from outside much faster than we have we've been members.
When were they in the single market?
They've never been.
Exactly.
They've never been. So
it's the point, isn't it? It's the difference between what we have now and the WTO position, which no other country has ever been in.
No, I think we start from a very good base because we have recognition of standards at the moment. We have zero tariffs. So it should actually be a very good base on which to rapidly do a deal on free trade. That is much the best destination. But what we should not be terrified of is the WTO. We've got pretty senior people signing this letter, senior business people, senior economists, who are quite clear that this country would prosper. And what we would do, we would immediately be able to grab the huge advantages of leaving the single market, leaving the customs union, doing trade deals around the world, sort out our own regulation, which is imposed on 90% of our economy, when only 10% of our economy is involved with exports to the EU.
All right, well, let's just talk about what would happen to goods then. Would we also immediately put tariffs on goods that are coming in from the EU, dairy products, meat products?
Well, my feeling, and I've said this before, is that there's a huge advantage for our consumers. We would be able to choose our tariffs. So why do we have high tariffs on products, for instance, you start with agriculture, which we don't grow, bananas, oranges, coffee, other products like this? We could give every single citizen a huge boost by offering cheaper food. We could then decide what other food products to extend that to.
Wait, let's just take the example of... No, I'm talking specifically, I'm asking you about goods that are coming in from the EU, because that would be the primary thing. And the point is what they would cost after 2019 under the WTO scenario as opposed to a deal. Dairy products, according to the Resolution Foundation, would be up 8%. Meat products would be up nearly 6%. Cars and other vehicles, if you get into the non-food area, up 5%.
That is if we impose the tariffs. We don't have to impose those tariffs.
So we
I represent a part of the country with a very efficient dairy industry. They are really gearing up, actually.
Is that what you're suggesting? That we allow those products to come in without tariffs, whereas our exporters would most likely or almost certainly be subject to that when they export to the EU.
That is an option which we could follow. And you look at countries like Australia, they did that and they've prospered massively. But we could decide that would be up to our own elected politicians to make that decision. While we are inside the customs union, we can't discuss any of this. And we are not open to trading with the rest of the world. We can't do deals. And that is where the growth is. The European Commission says that 90% of growth in the world economy is going to be outside the European Union. That is where we want to go, and that is the future for this country. We want the best possible relations with our neighbours. Ideally, we want reciprocal free trade with zero tariffs based on conformity of standards. If they're not prepared to talk about that, we should give them notice now that we will be working with our own industries. All our administrative systems will be geared up to moving to WTO.
And start building the lorry parks, for example, around the Channel Tunnel.
No, why? Why? The World Bank.
Because
the World Bank has a figure that 2% of shipments.
Under WTO rules, it wouldn't be frictionless. You'd have to check those lorries and everything gets slowed down.
That's not true. The World Bank has a figure. Only 2% of shipments are actually checked. The vast majority of shipments are checked by chambers of commerce at point of shipment. That simply isn't right. You're thinking in terms of old customs officers with tri-corner hats and stripy bars stopping at stagecoach. It is not like that these days. Nearly all trade around the world is done electronically. But if we have to face the fact that this summit is not going to discuss any future trade deal. We are ineluctably moving down the road towards a WTO arrangement. So we better start preparing for it. If they come back, and we very much hope they would, to talk about a free trade deal, that would be a bonus. That would be a good thing.
Owen Paterson, thank you very much.